The Book of Jubilees, chapters 19, 20, and 21. The precept and witness includes Genesis chapter 25, the Book of Asher chapters 24 and 26, that goes over Abraham being tried again by Yah of his patience after Sarah died. Rebekah, Isaac's wife, have the twins Esau and Jacob, and cries for help when her pregnancy was hard. And chapter 20 goes over after Sarah dies that Abraham took a wife. Her name was Keturah. And chapter 21 of Jubilees goes over Abraham instruct or command Isaac to obey Ahiah after he dies and command him not to eat any blood nor take gifts for blood and acceptable wood types when building a wood altar. So let's get into it. The Book of Jubilees, chapter 19. And in the first year of the first week of the 42nd Jubilee, Abraham returned and dwelt opposite Hebron, that is, Kirjah Arba, 2 weeks of years. And in the first year of the third week of this Jubilee, the days of the life of Sarah were accomplished. And she died in Hebron, and Abraham went to mourn over her and bury her. And we tried him to see if his spirit were patient, and he were not indignant in the words of his mouth. And he was found patient in this, and was not disturbed. For in patience of spirit he conversed with the children of Heth, to the intent that they should give him a place in which to bury his dead. And Ahiah el Elohi gave him grace before all who saw him. And he besought in gentleness the son of Heth, and they gave him the land of the double cave over against Mamre, that is in Hebron, for 400 pieces of silver. And they besought him, saying, We shall give it to thee for nothing. But he would not take it from their hands for nothing. For he gave the price of the place, the money in full, and he bowed down before them twice. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Those are my pus. Please forgive me for my pus. The money in full, and he bowed down before them twice. And after this he buried his dead in the double cave. And all the days of the life of Sarah were 127 years, that is, 2 jubilees and 4 weeks and 1 year. These are the days of the years of the life of Sarah. This is the 10th trial wherewith Abraham was tried. And he was found faithful, patient in spirit. And he said not a single word regarding the rumor in the land, how that El Elohi Ahiah had said that he would give it to him and to his seed after him. And he begged a place there to bury his dead, for he was found faithful, and was recorded on the heavenly tablets as the friend of El Elohi Ahiah. And in the 4th year thereof he took a wife for his son Isaac, and her name was Rebekah, in 2020 a.m., 8 on Monday, the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Nahor, the brother of Abraham, the sister of Laban, and daughter of Bethuel. And Bethuel was the son of Milcah, who was the wife of Nahor, the brother of Abraham. The book of Asher, chapter 24, precept and witness, goes into detail of the story. And the life of Sarah was 127 years, and Sarah died. And Abraham rose up from before his dead to seek a burial place to bury his wife Sarah. And he went and spoke to the children of Heth, the inhabitants of the land, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you in your land. Give me a possession of a burial place in your land, that I may bury my dead from before me. And the children of Heth said unto Abraham, Behold, the land is before thee. In the choice of our sepulchres bury thy dead, for no man shall withhold thee from burying thy dead. And Abraham said unto them, If you are agreeable to this, go and entreat for me to Ephron, the son of Zachor, requesting that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which is in the end of his field, and I will purchase it of him for whatever he desire for it. And Ephraim dwelt among the children of Heth, and they went and called for him. And he came before Abraham, and Ephraim said unto Abraham, Behold, all thou requirest thy servant will do. And Abraham said, No, but I will buy the cave and the field which thou hast for value, in order that it may be for a possession of a burial place forever. And Ephraim answered and said, Behold, the field and the cave are before thee. Give whatever thou desirest. And Abraham said, Only at full value will I buy it from thy hand, and from the hands of those that go in at the gate of thy city, and from the hand of thy seed forever. And Ephraim and all his brethren heard this, and Abraham weighed to Ephron 400 shekels of silver in the hands of Ephron, and in the hands of all his brethren. And Abraham wrote this transaction, and he wrote it and testified it with 4 witnesses. And these are the names of the witnesses: Amigal, son of Abishna the Hittite; Adakoram, son of Ashnuach the Hivite; Abdon, son of Achiram the Gormerite; Bagdil, the son of Abidish the Zonanite. And Abraham took the book of the purchase and placed it in his treasures. And these are the words that Abraham wrote in the book, namely, that the cave and the field Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite, and from his seed, and from those that go out of his city, and from their seed forever, or to be a purchase to Abraham, and to his seed, and to those that go forth from his loins, for a possession of a burial place forever. And he put a signet to it, and testified it with witnesses. And the field and the cave that was in it, and all the place were made sure unto Abraham, and unto his seed after him from the children of Heth. Behold, it is before Mamre in Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan. And after this Abraham buried his wife Sarah there, and that place and all its boundary became to Abraham and unto his seed for a possession of a burial place. Now continuing on to the book of Jubilees, chapters 19, verses 11 through 15. And Abraham took to himself a 3rd wife, and her name was Keturah, from among the daughters of his household servants. For Hagar had died before Sarah, and she bare him 6 sons: Zimran, Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua, in the 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in the 2nd year thereof, Rebekah bare to Isaac 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. And 24:6 a.m., Jacob was a smooth and upright man, and Esau was fierce, a man of the field, and hairy, and Jacob dwelt in tents. And the youths grew, and Jacob learned to write, but Esau did not learn, for he was a man of the field, and a hunter, and he learned war, and all his deeds were fierce. And the precept to that is Genesis 25, chapters 1 through 6, King James Version. Then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimram, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. And Jokshan begat Sheba, and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Ashurim, and Letsushim, and Luminim. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Epher, and Hanok, and Abidah, and Eldah. And these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. But unto the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts, and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward unto the east country. Another precept to that is Genesis 25, chapter 20 through verses 20 through 25 precept. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian in Panaram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated Ahiah for his wife, because she was barren, and Ahiah was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Elohi Ahiah. And Ahiah said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Now we're going to go into the book of Asher, chapter 26, another precept and witness to the story. Chapter 26 of the book of Asher. And in the 59th year of the life of Isaac, the son of Abraham, Rebekah his wife was still barren in those days. And Rebekah said unto Isaac, Truly I have heard, my lord, that thy mother Sarah was barren in her days until my lord Abraham, thy father, prayed for her, and she conceived by him. Now therefore stand up, pray thou also to Elohi Ahiah, and he will hear thy prayer and remember us through his mercies. And Isaac answered his wife Rebekah, saying, Abraham has already prayed for me to Elohi to multiply his seed. Now therefore this barrenness must proceed to us from thee. And Rebekah said unto him, But arise now thou also, and pray that Elohi may hear thy prayer, and grant me children. And Isaac hearkened to the words of his wife. And Isaac and his wife rose up and went to the land of Moriah to pray there and to seek Elohi. And when they had reached that place, Isaac stood up and prayed to Elohi on account of his wife, because she was barren, couldn't have children at the time. And Isaac said, O Elohi Ahiah, my mighty God of heaven and earth, whose goodness and mercies fill the earth, thou who didst take my father from his father's house and from his birthplace, and didst bring him unto this land, and didst say unto him, To thy seed will I give the land, and thou didst promise him, and didst declare unto him, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand of the sea. Now may thy words be verified, which thou didst speak unto my father. For thou art Elohi Ahiah, my mighty God, our eyes are toward thee to give us seed of men, as thou didst promise us. For thou art Elohi Ahiah, our mighty God, and our eyes are directed toward thee only. And Ahiah heard the prayer of Isaac the son of Abraham, and Elohi Ahiah was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And in about 7 months after the children struggled together within her, it pained her greatly that she was wearied on account of them. And she said to all the women who were then in the land, Did such a thing happen to you as it has to me? And they said unto her, No. And she said unto them, Why am I alone in this amongst all the women that were upon earth? And she went to the land of Moriah to seek Elohi on account of this. And she went to Shem and Eber his son to make inquiries of them in this matter, and that they should seek Elohi in this thing respecting her. And she also asked Abraham to seek and inquire of Elohi about all that had befallen her. And they all inquired of Elohi concerning this matter, and they brought her word from Ahiah, and told her, 2 children are in thy womb, and 2 nations shall rise from them. And 1 nation shall be stronger than the other, and the greater shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were completed, she knelt down, and behold, there were twins in her womb, as Elohi had spoken to her. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and all the people of the land called his name Esau, saying that this one was made complete from the womb. And after that came his brother, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. Therefore they called his name Jacob. And Isaac the son of Abraham was 60 years old when he begat them. And the boys grew up to their 15th year, and they came amongst the society of men. Esau was a designing and deceitful man, and an expert hunter in the field. And Jacob was a man perfect and wise, dwelling in tents, feeding flocks, and learning the instructions of Elohi and the commands of his father and mother. And Isaac and the children of his household dwelt with his father Abraham in the land of Canaan, as Elohi had commanded them. And Ishmael the son of Abraham went with his children and all belonging to them, and they returned there to the land of Helvilah, and they dwelt there. And all the children of Abraham concubines went to dwell in the land of the east, for Abraham had sent them away from his son Isaac, and had given them presents, and they went away. And Abraham gave all that he had to his son Isaac, and he also gave him all his treasures. And he commanded him, saying, Dost thou not know and understand, Elohi, mighty God in heaven and in earth, and there is no other besides him? And it was he who took me from my father's house and from my birthplace, and gave me all the delight upon earth, who delivered me from the counsels of the wicked, for in him did I trust. Now continuing on back to the book of Jubilees, chapters 19, verses 16 through 30. Now we're going back and forth in these different books as instructed in the King James Version Bible and by the Spirit of El Elohim. These different books goes into detail as to what happened according to the King James Version Bible goes into basic, but the other books goes into detail, kind of fill in the gaps. So continuing on back to the book of Jubilees, chapter 19, verses 16 through 30. And Abraham loved Jacob, but Isaac loved Esau. And Abraham saw the deeds of Esau, and he knew that in Jacob should his name and seed be called. And he called Rebekah and gave commandment regarding Jacob, for he knew that she too loved Jacob much more than Esau. And he said unto her, My daughter, watch over my son Jacob, for he shall be in my stead on the earth, and for a blessing in the midst of the children of men, and for the glory of the whole seed of Shem. For I know that Ahijah El Elohi, our mighty God, will choose him to be a people for possession unto himself above all peoples that are upon the face of the earth. And behold, Isaac my son loves Esau more than Jacob, but I see that thou truly love Jacob. Add still further to thy kindness to him, and let thine eyes be upon him in love. For he shall be a blessing unto us on the earth from henceforth unto all generations of the earth. Let thy hands be strong, and let thy heart rejoice in thy son Jacob, for I have loved him far beyond all my sons. He shall be blessed forever, and his seed shall fill the whole earth. If a man can number the sand of the earth, his seed also shall be numbered. And all the blessing wherewith El Elohi Ahijah, our mighty God, had blessed me, and my seed shall belong to Jacob, and his seed always. And in his seed shall my name be blessed, and the name of my father Shem, and Noab, and Enoch, and Mahalaleel, and Enoch, and Seth, and Adam. And these shall serve to lay the foundations of the heaven, and to strengthen the earth, and to renew all the luminaries which are in the firmament. And he called Jacob before the eyes of Rebekah his mother, and kissed him, and blessed him. And said, Jacob, my beloved son, whom my soul loved, may El Elohi Ahijah, our mighty God, bless thee from above the firmament, and may he give thee all the blessings wherewith he blessed Adam, and Enoch, and Noah, and Shem, and all the things of which he told me, and all the things which he promised to give me, may he cause to cleave to thee and to thy seed forever. According to the days of heaven above the earth, and the spirits of Mastema, which is Satan, shall not rule over thee, or over thy seed, to turn thee from Ahijah El Elohi, who is thy Elohim, from henceforth forever. Excuse me. And may El Elohi Ahijah, our mighty God, be a father to thee, and thou the firstborn son, and to the people always. Go in peace, my son. And they both went forth together from Abraham. And Rebekah loved Jacob with all her heart and with all her soul, very much more than Esau, but Isaac loved Esau much more than Jacob. Now we're going to get into the book of Jubilees, chapter 20. Ishmael point arrow at Jacob. Ishmael marries into Canaanite women. Abraham tells Ishmael's wife, Canaanite woman, to tell Ishmael to put away the nail, which is the wife, in his tent and replace with another nail. With scripture references, precepts, and witnesses as Genesis 25, chapter 25, verse 1, Genesis 25, 12 through 16, Deuteronomy 7, Ezra 9, 2, Kings 19, 17 through 19, Psalms 115, verses 3 through 8, Isaiah 37, 18 through 20, Genesis 25, 1 through 6, and the book of Asher, chapter 21. So let's get into the book of Jubilees, chapter 20. And in the 42nd Jubilee, in the first year of the 7th week, Abraham called Ishmael in 2052 a.m., ain't no Monday, or 2045, ain't no Monday, and his 12 sons, and Isaac and his 2 sons, and the 6 sons of Keturah and their sons. And he commanded them that they should observe the way of El Elohi Ahijah, that they should work righteousness and love each his neighbor, and act on this matter among all men, that they should each so walk with regard to them as to do judgment and righteousness on the earth. Genesis chapter 25, verses 1 through 6, precept. Keturah's 6 sons. Then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimram, and Jokshan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua, and Jokshan begat Sheba, and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Ashurim, and Letzashim, and Luminim, and the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Epher, and Hanok, and Abida, and Eldah. And these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac, but unto the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts, and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward unto the east country. Genesis 25, verses 12 through 16. Ishmael 12 princes. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, who Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael was Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Abdil, and Mipsam, and Mishnah, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, and Tamar, Jektur, Nipshish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations. Now continuing on back to the book of Jubilees, chapter 20, verses 3 through 9. That they should circumcise their sons according to the covenant which he had made with them, and not deviate to the right hand or the left of all the paths which Elohim had commanded us, and that we should keep ourselves from all fornication and uncleanness, and renounce from amongst us all fornication and uncleanness. And if any woman or maid commit fornication amongst you, burn her with fire, and let them not commit fornication with her after their eyes and their heart. And let them not take to themselves wives from the daughters of Canaan, for the seed of Canaan will be rooted out of the land. And he told them of the judgment of the giants and the judgment of the Sodomites, how they had been judged on account of their wickedness, and had died on account of their fornication and uncleanness, and mutual corruption through fornication. And the precept to that and witness is in Deuteronomy 7 and Ezra 9. Deuteronomy 7, verse 1. When Elohim shall bring thee into thy land, whether thou goes to possess it, and had cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations, greater and mightier than thou. And when thy Elohim shall deliver thee before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his sons, nor his daughters shalt thou take unto thy sons. So there you have it. We were not to mix with the Canaanites and the other nations. Ezra 9, 1 through 2. Now when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, The people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites and the Perizzites, the Jebusites and the Ammonites, the Moabites and the Egyptians and the Amorites. For they have taken of their daughter for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers have been chief in the trespass. Ishmael's son were the chief culprit in this trespass. So there you have it. We were disobedient to the word of mighty God Ahia. He told us not to mix with the concubines and Keturah's sons, because the seed was through Jacob and Isaac. So we mixed with them, and now we're in trouble. All the nations and the holy seed was mixed and mingled. Now Ahia is back in the earth, and he's separating us from the Gentiles from the holy seed. Now we're getting into the book of Asher, chapter 21, verses 13 through 16, and verses 25 through 37, precept and witness to the story. Book of Asher, chapter 21. And when Isaac was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent. And Ishmael came to Isaac and seated himself opposite to him. And he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to slay Isaac. And Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Isaac, and it grieved her exceedingly on account of her son. And she sent for Abraham and said to him, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do unto him this day. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up early in the morning, and he took 12 loaves of and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar, and sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness, and they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran with the inhabitants of the wilderness. And Ishmael was an archer, and he dwelt in the wilderness a long time. Several verses down, verse 25. And Abraham asked the wife of Ishmael, saying, Where has Ishmael gone? And she said, He has gone to the field to hunt. And Abraham was still mounted upon the camel, for he would not get off to the ground, as he had sworn to his wife Sarah that he would not get off from the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, My daughter, give me a little water that I may drink, for I am fatigued from the journey. And Ishmael's wife answered and said to Abraham, We have neither water nor bread. And she continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham, neither did she ask him who he was. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them. And she also cursed her husband Ishmael and reproached him. And Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's wife to her children, and he was very angry and displeased. And Abraham called to the woman to come out to him from the tent, and the woman came and stood opposite to Abraham, for Abraham was still mounted upon the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, When thy husband Ishmael returned home, say these words to him, A very old man from the land of the Philistines came hither to seek thee, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing thou wast not here, he spoke unto me, and said, When Ishmael thy husband returneth, tell him, Thus did this man say, When thou comest home, put away this nail of the tent which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Abraham finished his instructions to the woman, and he turned and went off on the camel homeward. And after that Ishmael came from the chase, he and his mother, and returned to the tent. And his wife spoke these words to him, A very old man from the land of the Philistines came to seek thee, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing thou wast not at home, he said to me, When thy husband cometh home, tell him, Thus said the old man, Put away the nail of the tent which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Ishmael heard the words of his wife, and he knew that it was his father, and that the wife did not honor him. And Ishmael understood his father's words, and that he had spoken to his wife. And Ishmael hearkened to the voice of his father. And Ishmael cast off that woman, and she went away. And Ishmael afterward went to the land of Canaan, and he took another wife, and he brought her to his tent, to the place where he then dwelt. Now continuing back to the book of Jubilees, chapter 20, verses 6 through 10. And guard yourself from all fornication and uncleanness, and from all pollution of sin, lest you make our name a curse, and your whole life a hissing, and all your sons to be destroyed by the sword, and you become a curse like Sodom, and all your remnant as the sons of Gomorrah. I implore you, my sons, love the Elohi Ahai, mighty God of heaven, and cleave you to all his commandments, and walk not after their idols and after their uncleanness, and make not for yourselves molten or graven gods, for they are vanity, and there is no spirit in them, for they are work of men's hands, and all who trust in them trust in nothing. Serve them not, nor worship them, but serve you, the Most High El Elohi, mighty God Ahia, and worship him continually, and hope for his countenance always, and work uprightness and righteousness before him, that he may have pleasure in you, and grant you his mercy, and send rain upon you morning and evening, and bless all your work which you have wrought upon the earth, and bless thy bread and thy water, and bless the fruit of thy womb, and the fruit of thy land, and the herds of thy cattle, and the flocks of thy sheep. Now the precept and witness to that is in 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 17 through 19. Of a truth, El Elohi Ahia, the kings of Assyria, have destroyed the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire. For they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone, therefore they have destroyed them. Now therefore, O El Elohi Ahia, our mighty God, I beseech thee, save thou us out of his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art El Elohi Ahia, even thou only. Psalms 115, verses 3 through 8. But our El Elohim is in the heavens. He had done whatsoever he had pleased. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. They that make them are like unto them, so is everyone that trusted in them. And the precept to that is Isaiah 37:18-19. We're going over the idols, the images that the Canaanites and all the other children of Ishmael and Esau worship. So here we go, Isaiah 37 verses 18-20. Of a truth, El Elohim, the kings of Assyria have laid waste all the nations and their countries, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were no gods, but the work of men's hands. Wood and stone, therefore they have destroyed them. Now therefore, O El Elohim, our mighty God, save us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art El Elohim, even only. Now continuing on back to the book of Jubilees, chapter 20, verses 10-12. And you will be for a blessing on the earth, and all nations of the earth will desire you, and bless your sons in my name, that they may be blessed as I am. And he gave to Ishmael and to his sons and to the sons of Keturah gifts, and sent them away from Isaac his son. And he gave everything to Isaac his son. And Ishmael and his sons and the sons of Keturah and their sons went together and dwelt from Paran to the entering in of Babylon in all the land which is toward the east facing the desert. And these mingled with each other, and their names were called Arabs and Ishmaelites. There you have it. The book of Jubilees, chapter 21. Abraham commanded Isaac prior to him dying to obey Yah's commandments and do his will. Abraham commanded Isaac not to eat blood nor take gifts for blood, the acceptable wood types, when building a wood altar. Here we go, chapter 21 of the book of Jubilees, the last chapter for today. And in the 6th year of the 7th week of this Jubilee, Abraham called Isaac his son, and in 2057 or 2050 a.m., 8 on Monday, commanded him, saying, I am become old, and know not the day of my death, and am full of my days. And behold, I am 175 years old, and throughout all the days of my life I have remembered Ahia El Elohi, and sought with all my heart to do his will, and to walk uprightly in all his ways. My soul has hated idols, given my heart and spirit, that I might observe to do the will of him who created me. For he is the living El Elohi, mighty God, and he is holy and faithful, and he is righteous beyond all, and there is with him no accepting of men's persons, and no accepting of gifts. He's not respect of persons. For El Elohim is righteous, and executed judgment on all those who transgress his commandments and despise his covenant. And do thou, my son, observe his commandments and his ordinances and his judgments, and walk not after the abominations, and after the graven images, and after the molten images, and eat no blood at all of animals or cattle or of any bird which flies in the heavens. And if thou dost slay a victim as an acceptable peace offering, slay you it, and pour out its blood upon the altar, and all the fat of the offering offer on the altar with fine flour, and the meat offering mingle with oil. With its drink offering offer them all together on the altar of burnt offering. It is a sweet savor before El Elohi Ahia. And thou wilt offer the fat of the sacrifice of thank offering on the fire which is upon the altar, and the fat which is on the belly, and all the fat on the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and all the fat that is upon them, and upon the loins, and liver thou shalt remove together with the kidneys. And offer all these for a sweet savor acceptable before El Elohi Ahia, with its meat offering and with its drink offering, for a sweet savor, the bread of the offering unto El Elohi Ahia. And eat its meat on that day and on the 2nd day, and let not the sun on the 2nd day go down upon it till it is eaten. And let nothing be left over for the third day, for it is not acceptable, for it is not approved. And let it no longer be eaten, and all who eat thereof will bring sin upon themselves. For thus I have found it written in the books of my forefathers, and in the words of Enoch, and in the words of Noah. And on all thy oblations thou shalt strew salt, and let not the salt of the covenant be lacking in all thy oblations before Elohim. And as regard the wood of the sacrifices, beware lest thou bring other wood for the altar in addition to these: cypress, bay, almond, fir, pine, cedar, savin, fig, olive, myrrh, laurel, aspalathus, and of these kinds of wood lay upon the altar under the sacrifice, such as have been tested as to their appearances. And do not lay thereon any split or dark wood, but hard and clean, without fault, a sound and new growth. And do not lay thereon old wood, for its fragrance is gone, for there is no longer fragrance in it as before. Besides these kinds of wood, there is none other than thou shalt place on the altar, for the fragrance is dispersed, and the smell of its fragrance goes not up to heaven. Observe this commandment and do it, my son, that thou mayest be upright in all thy deeds, and at all times be clean in thy body, and wash thyself with water before thou approachest to offer on the altar, and wash thy hands and thy feet before thou drawest near to the altar. And when thou art done sacrificing, wash again thy hands and thy feet, and let no blood appear upon you, nor upon your clothes. Be on thy guard, my son, against blood, but on thy guard exceedingly, covered with dust. And do not eat any blood, for it is the soul. Eat no blood whatever, and take no gifts for the blood of man, lest it be shed with impunity without judgment. For it is the blood that is shed that causes the earth to sin, and the earth cannot be cleansed from the blood of man, save by the blood of him who shed it. And take no presents or gift for the blood of man, blood for blood, that thou mayest be acceptable before Elohim, the Most High God, for he is the defense of the good, and that thou mayest be preserved for all evil, and that he may save thee from every kind of death. I see, my son, that all the works of the children of men are sin and wickedness, and all their deeds are uncleanness and an abomination and a pollution, and there is no righteousness with them. Beware lest thou shouldest walk in their ways, and tread in their paths, and sin a sin unto death before the Most High Elohim. Else he will hide his face from thee, and give thee back into the hand of thy transgression, and root thee out of the land, and thy seed likewise from under heaven. And thy name and thy seed shall perish from the whole earth. Turn away from all their deeds and all their uncleanness, and observe the ordinances of the Most High Elohim, mighty God Ahia, and do his will, and be upright in all things. And he will bless thee in all thy deeds, and will raise up from thee a plant of righteousness through all the earth, throughout all generations of the earth. And my name and thy name shall not be forgotten under heaven forever. Go, my son, in peace. May the Most High God, Elohim, my Elohim, and thy Elohim strengthen thee to do his will, and may he bless all thy seed and the residue of thy seed for the generations forever, with all righteousness blessings, that thou mayest be a blessing on all the earth. And he went out from him rejoicing. And that's the end of the book of Jubilees, chapters 19, 20, and 21. Thank you for listening.